Well, good morning, everyone. If you're on the West Coast, good afternoon elsewhere in the country or around the world. We're going to go ahead and get started now. My name is Nick Blozan. I'm with marketing, and we have a very special treat for you today. First of all, as I mentioned earlier, we tried to run this webinar about a month ago and ran into a bit of an outage that prevented people from joining it. So we're very excited to be rebroadcasting this. It's a very popular topic. We have a large audience in attendance here, which is great. And the topic for today is Huawei WLAN Solutions. So before we get started, just a few areas of housekeeping. First of all, this webinar is being recorded, so you'll be able to get a full recorded version of the contents of the webinar afterwards. Be able to get that off the Huawei website, and also we'll be able to send the slides as well if you're interested in those. Another thing is that we're going to have some polling questions that we're going to ask you in the audience throughout the presentation. And when we do that, we very much appreciate your participation. The polling questions allow us to get some information about where you stand with WLAN deployments today, and be able to see information from your peers about what they're doing and kind of what's working and what isn't. So that'll be interesting to see. And then also, as far as questions go, we're going to take questions at the end. There is a Q&A panel in your GoToWebinar interface, so please keep questions coming throughout the webinar. And then we'll go ahead and address those at the end. So just continue to do that throughout the time. So we have a couple of speakers today. The first one I'm going to turn it over to is Director of Integrated Marketing. His name is Thomas Keenan, fantastic presenter. So go ahead and take it away, Thomas.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate the kind introduction there. No, by the way, I am also joined towards the end of this presentation by Osama Magood of our standards team, who will take us through wireless standards. And there's actually a picture of Osama right there in the fifth item of the agenda. Let me quickly run through first, though, the various parts of the agenda I have for you today in the next half hour, 45 minutes. The first thing we'd like to do is just give you a little bit of a background about Huawei. A lot of folks who join these webinars, and we've had several of them, do have a varied amount of knowledge about the company, so we'd like to level set with you first. Secondly, let's talk a little bit about market dynamics and the state of the WLAN market today. There is an enormous amount of change going on in this space between dynamics driving WLAN and WLAN implementations such as BYOD. What that implies is more and more employees bring that personal device onto corporate networks and all the implications of what's going on there and how that becomes CIO top of mind. What some of the WLAN challenges are, I think there's 4 main WLAN challenges in implementation, and we really need to find a very happy medium between those 4 challenges in order to most successfully deploy and use WLAN technology. And then I'll quickly drop into Huawei WLAN Solutions. We do have an end-to-end wired and wireless solution set that very seamlessly connects those two worlds, and would love to take you through some of that. And then finally, as I said, Osama will stop on to give us some wireless standards update. We do have over 100 wireless patents alone that Huawei has either submitted or gotten approved, and so we have very deep expertise in this space going back 12 or 13 years, and Osama would love to give you the update there. And then finally, we'll conclude with a quick executive summary about what we've covered today and some quick Q&A. Before we get to all of that, though, we would like to level set on how much you do know about Huawei. And so, Nick, why don't you take it away for our first polling question?
Thanks, Thomas. And yes, we have just launched the first poll. And the question is, how familiar are you with Huawei? So we're trying to find out if you're very familiar, you're either a current customer or a partner of Huawei. If you're familiar with the company but you haven't yet purchased a product or sold a product. If you have some familiarity, or if this is your first exposure. So go ahead and vote. We'll give you a couple minutes here. I do also want to mention that everyone attending this webinar will receive a $10 Starbucks gift card. So we appreciate you taking some time out of your day, and we're going to reward you with a cup of coffee. I think $10 pretty much buys about 1 cup of Starbucks these days. Thomas, isn't that about accurate?
That's about right.
So, and it will be very exciting to hear from Osama, because there's quite a bit of innovation going on within Huawei in general, and specifically in the WLAN space. So just another couple seconds. Go ahead and please make your vote, and then we'll show you guys the results. All right. And we're going to go ahead and share the results. And as you can see, it's a little bit mixed, but about a third of you are already a customer or partner. And I'd say about most of the rest of you are either somewhat familiar or very familiar with the company, which is great. And that gives us a bit of a context on how to go forward with the rest of the presentation, knowing how much you guys understand. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to you, Thomas.
Okay, thanks, Nick. Very interesting on those results. So let me give you a little bit of background about who Huawei is. We are, I would say, three major easy pieces here. We are very much of a global company, extremely well known in many areas outside the United States, whether that be Europe, Asia, Africa in particular. Very much of a household name, perhaps less so here in the United States, but I think that's changing. We do believe that we are a very innovative industry contributor, and I think that's largely going to be covered in the areas that Osama covers today, particularly in WLAN, but also in other wired and wireless technologies, whether that be storage, whether that be switching, routing, video conferencing, and telepresence. We have over 25,000 patents that have either been applied for or granted worldwide in all technology areas, and WLAN does form just one piece of that. And at the end of the day, I strongly believe we're an ICT industry leader, and that's information and communications technologies. Those two areas are merging, and we very much, I think, sit in the catbird seat as we have very strong presence in both of those areas, and that's where the world's going, driven by trends like mobility, like BYOD, cloud. All those trends are driving those two worlds together, and we really sit at the nexus of those two particular worlds, and I think you want to go with a vendor that has had experience in both of those places if that is in fact where the industry is going. A little bit more about us. The products and solutions that we'll talk to today have been deployed in over 140 countries, serving about 2.5 billion people. That's about a third of the world's population. We are privately owned. We were founded in Shenzhen, just north of Hong Kong, for those of you who know what that is, in 1987. A little bit more detail then, and kind of with overall business, and then the U.S. in particular in focus. We do serve 45 of the world's top 50 telecom operators, and I think that's interesting to the enterprise because, as we all know, those telecom operators are depending upon those networks to really drive their business. And their Six Sigma approach to their equipment really gives us a great advantage when we then turn and sell similar equipment to the enterprise. We are a large company. We have 150,000 global employees. And interestingly enough, about almost half of those are dedicated to research and development. So that gives us a huge advantage. We actually have an R&D staff as large as some of the size of our nearest competitors. We, as I said before, we are a top contributor to industry standards, and those standards and the innovations we've provided have been noticed by folks like Fast Company magazine, the ITripleE, and several other agencies that have awarded us quite a few kudos over the years for design and innovation. A little bit more in focus on the U.S. The Huawei North American Regional Office was established first in Plano, Texas. That was for our carrier business. And then our Santa Clara facility, which has more of an enterprise bent, was opened in 2011. We have since rolled out and established offices in key regional cities throughout the U.S., such as Boston, New York, Plano, Los Angeles, the Bay Area, and many other parts of the country. From a contribution to the local economy perspective, we've granted OEM contracts worth over $6 billion to U.S.-based technology companies in 2012 alone. And we did launch the enterprise business formally, some of you may remember that, in October of 2011, and that was at the Interop trade show in New York. This is a question I get a lot as well. It's great that you've got a series of solutions in the portfolio, but how about professional, technical, and learning services? And as a matter of fact, the answer is yes, yes, and yes on all three of those. We have over 1,400 SEs that we can bring to bear, and we have an extensive reseller network throughout the United States. So let's move on to our second agenda item, and now that I've given you a little bit of background about Huawei and who we are, and certainly be glad to entertain any other questions in our Q&A period. But what is the state of the WLAN markets, and what are some of the drivers there? What is all this, the hubbub about wireless, about BYOD, and mobility technologies? And so I think it's instructive to kind of level set yourself in this space to first ask what types of technology areas are keeping CIOs up late at night. And a very recent Gartner poll, this is late 2012, early 2013, reveals very interestingly that mobile technologies, as late as 2009, were only in 12th place in keeping that CIO up. And as a matter of fact, they have really zoomed straight up that ladder to be number 2. It's second only to analytics and business intelligence, i.e. handling big data and the analytics that go along with it. And those types of analytics clearly, I think, will always be in the top 5. But mobile technologies really have skyrocketed, surpassing even cloud and virtualization as technologies. And so when you see something like that happen, you've got to ask yourself, exactly why did this change occur? What's going on here? And I think it's due to a couple of things. Number one, it's clearly because of the growth of the use of mobile devices, both tablets and phones, and the percentage of the total devices sold that they represent now. As recently as 2 or 3 years ago, there were more PCs sold than mobile devices. That mobile devices have now surpassed our typical static PC and have become the device of choice for use both at home and in the workplace. And then the second item is the number of mobile workers that we have. In some countries in the world, actually that surpasses the number of folks who have a fixed desk anymore. So for many countries, many regions, we have over 50% of the workforce that has become mobile and, by the way, is demanding those mobile devices to keep in touch with the home office. Let's take a look at some of the specific enterprise WLAN market numbers. As I mentioned, the explosion of mobile devices and the uptake of enterprise mobility continues to be top of mind for enterprise IT in terms of driving WLAN infrastructure growth across a wide range of enterprise verticals and use cases. So this goes for education, for oil and gas, for state and local government, really across all the sectors. We're seeing this explosion occur in a quite similar manner. So according to this Gartner report, the wireless LAN market racked up another great year last year of 20% growth, just under $4 billion in annual revenue in 2012, again, a new high. The demand for WLAN is global. All major geographic regions are participating in it, even EMEA, which is, we all know because of the turn down in Greece, in Spain, in France, you would think would be a little more anemic, but even there it grew by double digits in 2012. And oh, by the way, 88% or nearly 90% of access points shipping today are based on the 802.11n standard. And I think that's going to change over time as the AC standard, which was ratified recently and which Huawei actually was the first to showcase last December, starts being deployed en masse. That actually triples the speed of wireless throughput for an access point. And so that, to me, that's very much of an inflection point that we'll start to see. Of special interest to partners on the call today, it's interesting that $1 investment in the WLAN market will drag with it up to $4 in network infrastructure sales. So the development of the WLAN market very much drives switches, access routers, core and edge equally. And so again, I think it's incredibly important to understand that WLAN is something you want to have in your kit in order to increase that envelope of sales. And we expect, again, this trend to continue. It looks like Gartner's got a projection of 2016, we will actually have over $6.2 billion in global enterprise WLAN sales, up from about $4 billion today. Okay, so given that we've taken care of about Huawei and state of the WLAN markets, what are some of the WLAN challenges that I'm looking at? What is it that's keeping, again, the CIO up at night as he realizes these trends are going on, and yet he intelligently wants to respond in facing the challenges that he's going to in order to most intelligently deploy WLAN? And so I think there's 4 main challenges. Number one, absolutely paramount. All this WLAN and BYOD stuff is fantastic. The CIO gets that it's important to deploy, but number one, security is a foremost factor that enterprises need to consider in BYOD applications. That is the number one fear that CIOs have, that as these devices come into my network and I give those employees more freedom, right, the rogue APs, viruses, Trojans, all sorts of things could migrate with those devices onto my network and create havoc. So I need an intelligent plan up front in order to be able to deal with that. And that poll and information week really shows very clearly, and that has not changed in 2012 as well. Number two, with all this wonderful BYOD technology, a very high priority for me remains as an enterprise to have a highly performant workforce. The performance and reliability of the WLAN must be guaranteed in seamless networks just the way the wired network was. New devices need to be added quickly and easily. And employees and customers, if I'm going to give this as freedom, need to be able to access their office network from anywhere. If I can't guarantee those 3 points, then I have a very big problem proving to the corporation that this BYOD stuff was a good idea to migrate into the network. Challenge number 3 is that employees wish for a better office experience. At the end of the day, they very much want, in any poll you take of new employees in particular, the 20 to 30 generation, age-wise, they want to take that device and not use a corporate device, but one that they have tuned to their own needs, and use that either for work or for personal needs as needed. They very much want to do that. They want to have their office applications on that intelligent device, and they want to have very seamless roaming, as they are very mobile, between devices in service processing. When they move either building to building, room to room, or on or off campus, they want that experience to be the same one. And then finally, they want to be able to use rich media services in any one of those scenarios very seamlessly. At the end of the day, challenge number 4 really pulls it all together. Enterprises hope for all of this to be rolled out with low TCO, or low total cost of ownership. When a wireless silo in a company is migrated to a Wi-Fi network, a campus network must deploy a large number of wireless devices. The installation and maintenance of all those access points, or those access controllers, can now become very much of a challenge. So all of us as vendors need to be working on extremely well. We have to have a plan in place for the design and deployment features that lower TCO for initial setup, troubleshooting, and maintenance. If we can't provide that to the buyer, then we have a real problem with the value of the BYOD and the WLAN solution overall. Okay, folks, Nick, I believe at this point then it's time for our polling question number 2.
Okay, so thanks, Thomas. The second polling question is really going to be more trying to figure out what your trigger is for WLAN inside of your environment. So the choices are, in this one you can actually select more than one choice. You can pick as many choices are valid to you. So is it BYOD and mobility that are really triggering WLAN? Is it price? Is it the ease of maintenance relative to wired, performance, or is it the convergence between wired and wireless? So go ahead and vote for all that are appropriate. Appreciate people sending in questions. There's been some good feedback coming in there, and we appreciate that. Keep your questions coming. As I mentioned earlier, we will address those at the end. Just give you another 10 or 15 seconds to get your vote cast, and then we'll show you the results. All right, let's take a look. So right now, it just looks like about fairly even spread. The highest point earner was just ease of maintenance relative to wired, but also a significant number of people selected price and mobility, as well as convergence between wired and wired as the main trigger. A little bit less focus on performance overall. But excellent feedback, so hopefully that's useful to you, and I know it's definitely useful to Thomas and Osama as they go through this. So go ahead, Thomas,
All right,
back to you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Appreciate the feedback, folks. Moving on then in our agenda to our 4th section, we'll talk very briefly about our WLAN solutions. So Huawei has a long WLAN product development history, and let me hit through some of the highlights stretching way back almost 13 years to the very early 2000s. The first generation enterprise WLAN products developed by Huawei came to market, and 2004 we gained a market share in our initial market of about 50% in China. In 2005 we entered the module development phase, and the R&D team was formed by research institutes in Asia, Europe, and America, started to develop WLAN products continuously. Our second generation WLAN products developed by Huawei came to the market, and mass products began to be sold. The number of engineers in the WLAN R&D team in 2008 reached 200. And now in 2012 and beyond, we've seen the third generation WLAN products developed by Huawei enter the market, together with long-distance coverage plans for business including WES, Mesh, and Wi-Fi. And on July 12, 2012, Huawei released the first tested 802.11ac access point of the industry in Shenzhen in an announcement. And so that's kind of a brief history of where we've been. So clearly we have deep roots in the space. We have a lot of technology and a lot of innovation going on. And that has yielded a couple series of product lines of interest. And that's what I'll cover next. Number one, we do have an entire series, entire line of access points, both interior and exterior, as well as access controllers, both standalone and integrated into our switching solutions. 2 to 3 of the characteristics and some of the highlights. We did, as I mentioned, announce and deploy the first 802.11 AC access point in commercial use in the industry. And that announcement was made back in December. Comprises 2 models, the AP7030 DNAC and the AP7130 DNAC. Our 802.11 AC APs support throughput of up to 1.3 gigabits at 5 gigahertz of frequency and 1.75 gigabits at dual frequency. And so that allows for a smooth evolution from 802.11n to 802.11 AC. For such applications, obviously, as HD video streaming, multimedia activities, and cloud desktop access. We are extremely competitive versus a lot of our competitive solutions on TCO savings, and I give that a lot of credit to our folks who have given us our automation tools, planning, design, and automation tools, and that really allows much less manual configuration and deployment of solutions, particularly when you're talking about an access point environment in which a corporation and enterprise may be deploying hundreds or thousands of these. Number 3, we do have very large coverage area. We do have baseband 2-level isolation preventing interference in our access points. And we do have actually control over the power of each packet, reducing co-area interference. And then finally, we have a lot more bandwidth than a lot of our competitive solutions. We do have multicast listening technology that's been deployed in the physical layer to improve bandwidth, and we do have adaptive scheduling to improve bandwidth as well. Unlike a lot of our competitors, we also carry a full line of network infrastructure switches that accommodate our access controllers, both for core and edge applications. And we provide power over Ethernet, for power over Ethernet applications. Anytime, for example, you need an access point directly connected to a power source, we support that through power over Ethernet in each and every one of these switches that we're showing, both modular and fixed formats. So whether you're talking about an S9700 modular solution or a 5700 or even down to a 3700, we provide power over Ethernet across the line. So this is a busy slide, but basically it's my kickoff point for the rest of the technology discussion. And so now that we've seen an overall view of the WLAN solutions from Huawei, what are some of the major characteristics? And I'll break it down to about 5. Number 1, support for high-density deployments. Thorough coverage with omnidirectional antennas, roaming features for seamless connectivity, easy mesh network deployment, and a full security suite provided so that we, as we talked about, that huge security threat that's a potential if you don't have a good security solution, we need to be very cognizant of things like rogue APs, rogue terminals, and people coming on the network to potentially do us harm and to be able to deal with that. And so each one of these 5 characteristics harken back to the top-of-mind CL careabouts that I talked about before. Let's talk in a little detail about each one of these. And in summary, with 20 years of experience in the carrier mobile network field, I think Huawei is very primarily situated and with exceptionally advanced wireless technologies for enterprise networks to be able to address these careabouts and needs. As I mentioned before, there are a lot of vendors who provide what I'll call as a traditional type of antenna coverage. Irregular coverage areas can develop with many coverage holes in between. Since there's narrow coverage, more access points will be required in the same area, and that's something to be aware of, especially if the vendor's claiming their access point is lower cost. The question to come back to that vendor with is, it may be lower cost, but how's that coverage area? I think a lot of us have experienced this if we've gone to the local mall or public area, and in one part of the mall coverage is excellent if we're logging into email, and we move 3 or 4 or 5, 10 feet, and we have a huge drop-off in coverage. And that's probably a characteristic of that type of traditional supplier AP. We, on the other hand, have omnidirectional antennas that provide much smoother coverage for regular coverage areas without coverage holes. And this provides wider coverage, saving up to 20% of access points in the same area compared to a typical deployment of a traditional supplier. I talked that our users really do expect seamless roaming, whether they're on a laptop, a tablet, or a Wi-Fi phone. And that's very much the spirit of what we provide from our seamless roaming and nonstop service capability. So whether you're on the laptop and doing some quick L2 roaming within a VLAN, you're just walking into the next room, for example, or a couple rooms away, doing quick Wi-Fi voice switching. If you're on a tablet and you're moving, let's say, building to building, you actually end up moving across VLANs. We have very smooth sub-100 millisecond switching, ensuring uninterrupted data services. And then finally, on that Wi-Fi phone, if you're going campus to campus, let's say, and want that experience, we provide seamless indoor and outdoor roaming as well. So very much an end-to-end solution, no matter what type of device, whether it's that laptop, that tablet, or that Wi-Fi phone. And again, those are the devices that are the growth stage of the market at this point. So mesh is, at the end of the day, when you talk about the topic of mesh, as the corporation grows, it's great to have a network that can be installed once and seamlessly grow with it. And that's what really mesh networking is all about. It's a new type of networking of wireless LANs used to extend existing wired LAN. In this network, access points can build a wireless link via multi-hopping. So what happens is that in the traditional initial deployment of a mesh network, a mesh AP does not require additional local configuration. But once perhaps you have hired 10 more employees, 20 more employees, whatever have you, and you need a new AP, a new added mesh node still needs local configuration, i.e. a truck roll or someone needs to physically go out to that site, and that increases the cost of network maintenance. The Huawei solution is that we have built-in capability, so we don't need to actually go out and do that upgrade. So the added mesh AP node does not need to be configured in advance for mesh network capacity expansion. The new access points automatically access the mesh network and download configurations, achieving plug-and-play mesh network capability, dramatically cutting down on the TCO for the entire solution. Let's talk quickly then about 2 or 3 security capabilities that are very important to have in any integrated WLAN solution: spectrum analysis, terminal type identification, and rogue device detection. And these are the types of characteristics you need to be looking at in order to address that top-of-mind concern, which is what are all these devices going to do from a security perspective as they migrate onto the network. Spectrum analysis is all about locating interference sources and avoiding non-Wi-Fi interference. And all of us can identify in the office environment what some of those devices are, whether we have a microwave oven, a cordless phone, Bluetooth, or someone's got a handset for gaming. Any of those devices that are either non-Wi-Fi or illegal Wi-Fi can potentially cause problems with interference. So what we need to be able to do, and Huawei provides a solution to do, is to identify non-Wi-Fi devices, quickly correct for them, and avoid interference. This guarantees a better user experience overall, especially in high-density wireless campuses. The second piece of the puzzle is to be able to detect either rogue APs or rogue terminals and deal with them effectively. And there's 2 ways we do that: monitoring and identify them, i.e. I sit in the background and I identify rogue terminals via illegal attack detection. And I also identify Wi-Fi terminals, including terminal rogue APs and wireless bridges through protocol packet analysis. If I can do both of those things, I can prevent illegal access points from accessing the network, and I can also prevent legal users from establishing a link to a rogue AP. The second type of approach is to have a guard and counter philosophy. And that's where you go out and you actively seek out the rogue devices and you send false de-authentication frames to prevent wireless users from establishing a link to the rogue AP by the rogue AP MAC address. And this prevents illegal terminals from accessing the network. Okay, my final security concern is obviously the key precondition of BYOD is that I want people to be able to bring a variety of types of devices to the network and access them seamlessly. I don't want to have my network management staff deal individually with each one of the devices that someone may or may not want to bring on the network. There are several main problems facing this type of terminal ID. Very often in some modes, some terminal types won't be recognized in some access modes. And small and medium enterprises are always concerned about that because each one of that non-recognition means a trip to the help desk in order to make something happen. Huawei supports external identification solutions and can identify terminal types in various authentication modes that meets most BYOD access requirements. We also support internal terminal identification without buying extra service packages, meeting the requirements of low TCO. And at this point, Nick, it looks like it is time for our polling question number 3. I'll let you take it away.
Okay, excellent. So the final polling question we have today is really getting an understanding of people's readiness for 802.11.AC, and Osama is going to talk quite a bit about this in his involvements in the Standards Committee going forward. But the question is, are you already there? Have you already implemented this thing? Is it something that you're going to plan to do over the next 3 to 6 months, 6 months to 2 years? Is it more than 2 years out, or do you have no plans at all to do it? So this is just giving us a feel for our R&D efforts and our ability to understand where you guys are in terms of the adoption of this standard. So we'll give you a couple of minutes, and lots of good questions are coming in. Thomas, I would recommend you start taking a look at some of those, and we'll be asking those at the end as well. We'll go ahead and give you guys just another few seconds to vote here, and then we'll show you the results. All right, let's go ahead and close out the poll, and then we'll share the results. So as you can see, the bulk of the audience here is really thinking about implementing 802.11ac within the next 6 months to 2 years. That seems to be the most popular time frame. Few people have already done it. There's a small group that are doing it within the next 3 to 6 months, and there's a handful, 20%, that have no plans to do it. So that's kind of interesting. So anyway, that gives you a feel for where you all stand, and it helps us with the presentation as well. So I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you, Thomas.
Okay, thank you, Nick. My last piece of the presentation before I turn it over to Osama, there's a few other things I think that we really do want to recognize from the Huawei WLAN solution. Number one, user-friendly design in general leads to better overall lower TCO and faster installation, and we've really thought this one through. A Huawei outdoor access point can be installed by one person. There are a variety of our suppliers, from other suppliers, who need a minimum of 2 people and sometimes 3 to install an access point. We've achieved this difference by having kind of a user-friendly handle, easy installation by one person, a back-off dovetail design with no need for screws, and also, very importantly, a same mounting kit for both wall and pole mounting. So this might sound like all small things, but at the end of the day, in large enterprises in particular, if you're out doing an installation of 1,000 outdoor access points, that would take Huawei only about 40 person days, while APs from a variety of other vendors need up to 125 person days. And again, when you're adding these costs into your overall total cost of ownership of the network, this can be significant. And any day that you take that network manager or that installer away from doing this is something they could be doing that, quite frankly, could be much more productive, rolling out an application or doing something entirely that's of higher value for the network and the corporation. So that's a very important point to keep in mind. The second thing, from professional installation to professional industrial design, Huawei has been honored by the Institute of Professional Design, the forum that's based in Germany, with a 2012 Design Award, and it reads in part, "Your design impressed our jury consisting of experts and renowned designers from all over the world. We'd like to congratulate you on your superb success." And so again, that really I think speaks to a couple of things: is our depth in the area, our innovative spirit, and really congrats to the Huawei team that pulled this off and made this happen. There's not a lot of industrial companies that necessarily are up for design awards. A lot happens somewhat, but not often. And I think this speaks volumes to the Huawei spirit in this space. I'd also like to point out that we're the first to recognize that access points need very much to live in indoor and outdoor environments, and we support a couple of things in particular to help us survive outdoors, and that is the Ingress Protection, or IP, level certification. For solids, and that's for the first number you see, we have a level 6, which is the highest level of certification. So in essence, our AP cabinets are entirely dust-free and will not be penetrated. And then secondly, if you have rain and wind going on outside, it's really important to have waterproof protection. Really, full submersion is optimal, and that's level 7. and that's provided by Huawei. The other thing that's important outside is electrical storms often occur in various parts of the country, and you really need to be able to protect against that. And we do have built-in surge protectors for both the network, the antenna port, and the AC power module, and that helps prevent a catastrophic outage in the case of lightning in the area. And that is an advantage versus most of our competitors for whom you need a separate surge protector purchased. A couple other things to maintain the network, and we have what we call the dying gas technology, and that sounds like something awful, but at the end of the day, what it is a built-in large capacity capacitor to keep the CPU running for a short time in case a power outage does happen, and record that current situation, i.e., where is it occurred and what is going on, and report it to the network management system. That allows the network manager to very quickly isolate where the trouble is occurring and direct his attention there rather than searching all over the network to see where the outages occurred. Again, the value here is that we can spot the outage, get the network manager directed to the right part of the network, and reduce overall campus management cost. As I talked about before optimization, a lot of design for WLAN was very much hut and peck and very manual, and that obviously leads to very unpredictable design, higher cost, and really doesn't do the organization very much good. To counter that, we actually offer an entire series of professional tools for the plan, design, and rollout of WLAN networks. From a predictable design perspective, we can guarantee signal quality then above 95%. We can plan once, roll it out, and not to have to go back and revisit the network design. And also, it's better planning for both 2.4G and 5G spectrum, and this can reduce operational problems by up to 20%. And then finally, once you get the accumulated experience benefit of a company like Huawei, we are more than willing to share those designs for your project, and that professional evaluation, I think, really helps in the smooth rollout of your particular situation. Alrighty, then finally, it's all about speed for this technology and throughput, and we do have a couple reports available on the TALI Group website. And TALI, if you don't know who they are, it's considered a specialist in global advanced technology assessment. And Huawei ended up performing extremely well versus a top competitor, Cisco, both for single client and multi-user scenarios. So check that report out, have a download, and certainly ping us with any questions on that particular report. Alrighty, at this point, as I've mentioned, we have a team of WLAN experts that is standing by the ready, and Osama is one of them. Osama, let me at this point let you introduce yourself and take it away.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Thomas. Yeah, my name is Osama Abu Magd, and I'm with Huawei Wireless CRD division, actually, the corporate research division. And my main activity in wireless LAN and wireless LAN standards. So can we move to the next slide?
Which?
Yeah, okay, so the next few slides, actually, I'm trying to give an overview of wireless LAN standards and basically what's going on and where it's going from where we are right now. So probably most of you know, actually, that the main two standard bodies that take care of wireless LAN standards is the IEEE 802.11 and the Wi-Fi Alliance. There's, of course, a big difference between the two, and both of them cooperate with each other. IEEE 802.11 basically focus on the technology itself, and the technology related to the first two layers of the OSI models. So basically, the focus is on the physical and the medium access layer. And it's IEEE 802.11 that produced all the kind of wireless LAN standards like .11a, B, G, N, and AC, and whatever comes in the future. The Wi-Fi Alliance, its basic function actually is to take the technical specifications from .11 and design some interoperability certification or interoperability tests to ensure devices from different vendors operate together. Actually the Wi-Fi certification has been its value has been increasing over since its inception, actually. So that's the main difference between the two organizations, and Wi-Fi Alliance also sometimes produce its own kind of protocols, if you like Wi-Fi Direct, for example, which is a peer-to-peer communication, something like Wi-Fi Display, and others. The next slide describes the evolution of .11 technology over the years. So as you see from left to right, we have 11B, .11A, .11G. Mainly, actually, they work on the 2.4 gigahertz band and the 5 gigahertz band, as I indicate on the slide. And mainly, actually, was driven by technology. So from B to the main technology actually for .11A and G is the inclusion of OFDM technology. And the next alphabet in the sequence was 11N, actually, which, of course, received lots of attention. And I think currently, actually, there are many enterprises that are in the process of replacing their legacy devices, I mean AVG, by newer technology, which is 11N. 11N operates in both bands, 2.4 and 5 gigahertz bands, and it's fully backward compatible. So any 11A or 11G or 11B device can operate with an 11N device seamlessly. So the main actually addition in 11N was the inclusion of multi-input, multi-output for single users. So actually the AP, the access point can actually send to multiple users. Can send the multiple streams to a single user at any point of time, and the maximum number of streams were actually 4 by 4. Then come actually 11AC, which in many ways actually is just an evolution of 11N. So its operation is defined in 5 gigahertz. Again, it's still using OFDM technology, MIMO, and the main addition is multi-user MIMO. So basically, downlink multi-user MIMO, actually, to be specific. So the AP actually can send to multiple stations at the same time, which of course should improve the performance, because an access point can have more antennas compared to the number of antennas on the station, like a cell phone or any gadget actually with Wi-Fi interfaces. The other thing actually about 11AC, which helped that to improve the rate tremendously, is the use of wider bandwidths, which I'm going to describe later. So this is actually the evolution of up to 11AC, and you see actually that 11AC is almost done actually. Like it has to go through the process of IEEE 802 process, which takes some time, but it's been stable for quite some time actually now. So in 802.11 working group, the people start asking what comes next. What should we do after 11AC? And basically, back in March of this year, a study group was formed. The name of the study group is High Efficiency Wireless LAN, or HEW, the abbreviation of the study group. And basically, it's looking for ways to improve the efficiency of wireless LAN deployment. So it looks at things like area throughput, spectrum efficiency, of course, still is a big driver. Looks at things like outdoor deployments and things like improved performance in terms of delays, throughput, and things like that. The next slide is focusing on the IEEE 802.11 11AC features. So the main features, as I mentioned, there is support for up to 8 antennas. Of course, up to 8 is actually like it's an optional. The only mandatory thing is to support a single stream. There is support for 40 megahertz, which actually was introduced in 11N. But in addition to that, there is support for 80 megahertz and for an optional support for 160 megahertz. Every time, of course, you double the width of the channel, you actually effectively double the rate, the data rate that can be achieved in terms of bits per second. There are some operations like static and dynamic operations. So if the whole bandwidth, if for example, someone is requesting 160 megahertz and the whole bandwidth is not available, it can actually, the transmission can be downgraded to 80 megahertz or 40 megahertz, depending on the availability of the channels. Support for higher modulation and coding schemes. 11N actually support up to 64 QAM, that's a quadrupole amplitude modulation. 11AC actually introduced 256 QAM, which can actually increase the rate up to a 33%. So if all the options and if all the nice stuff is implemented, the data rates can reach up to 6.9 gigabits per second. Of course, realistically, we are not going to see that anytime soon, but there is a potential, and as the technology matures, this is the theoretical, the maximum theoretical data rate that can be achieved in 11AC. In the next slide, that's basically a follow-up, like as I mentioned, Wi-Fi Alliance is concerned with having Wi-Fi Alliance certification. So in addition to the work that is progressing in .11 related to 11AC, and as I mentioned, it's almost done actually, and I think it's expected to be published maybe by early next year actually. The Wi-Fi Alliance actually has started working on the certification for 11AC. The project actually, the name is VHT 5G. That stands for very high throughput, and 5G of course because 11AC operates in the 5G band. So the certification actually started, the work on the certification started by forming a marketing task group in 2010. And this marketing task group defined like marketing requirements and areas of focus and the features that should be tested first and things like that. And once the marketing task group completed its work, the technical task group started, where actually the test plan was written and the test bed was set. And the Wi-Fi Alliance launched the certification program in June 2013. So that's like 2 months ago, and I heard actually that number of products got certified during this time. Next slide, just some, and this is the last slide actually for the standards. Basically, summarize Huawei and participation in Wi-Fi standards. So Huawei actually holds the chairman position in for 802.11ac. Also for the new study group that I mentioned with the mandate to look at what comes next and where the wireless LAN technology should go from here. So the chairman of the HU is Huawei holds the chairman of the HU. Also, actually, Huawei sits on the board of Wi-Fi Alliance, among some of industry leaders actually, like Qualcomm and others. And in Wi-Fi Alliance, actually, Huawei holds a number of vice chair positions, including actually the VHT 5G, and Huawei participated actually in setting the test plan and writing the test plan as well. And this completes the standard part, and back to you, Thomas.
Okay, Osama, thank you very much. Appreciate the update there. And so, folks, in conclusion, before we get to a little bit of Q&A, again, the executive summary for the presentation we just had, hopefully what we've been able to prove to you is that Huawei does have leading price performance versus its major competitors for both access points and access controllers. We do have extremely user-friendly engineering design. We've gotten awards from an artistic point of view, I guess I'll call it, but also extremely important to note how much less labor will be required to deploy our solution versus our major competitors. And I'd advocate that you go out and test some of these principles when you're looking at a wireless vendor, because that's a very important part of the overall cost of the network. Third-party certifications are extremely important. I talked about zero configuration necessary for mesh networks as you grow that network over time, and the fact that we do have at your disposal professional WLAN network planning available, and it will enhance the network delivery quality. And this is built on the experience of literally tens and tens and tens of accounts. So that's, take advantage of that, given the fact that Huawei does offer that service. Talk a little bit about harsh environment and extreme environment. You want to be very much assured that your access points and your access controllers form part of a solution that will exist both indoors, but also, very importantly, as we get more and more public areas and enterprise areas and courtyards and other outdoor areas for businesses deploying access points. You want to be able to control the survivability of those access points, and when there is a problem, to be able to quickly detect that and to fix the issue. And so with that, Nick, and with that quick summary, I guess I'll turn it over to you for the Q&A you mentioned.
Thanks, Thomas, and thanks, Osama. Great job. We have a few minutes left, and we do have some questions, so let's go ahead and address those. There's actually a large number of questions, so we really appreciate all the audience participation. It's fantastic. The first one just has to do with training, and the question is, do we have technical certification courses for Huawei WLAN products, and also how can partners get certified on Huawei WLAN products? For partners, we actually have a couple of different types of training. There's one specific to sales individuals, people who are selling the products, and then there's another one that's more technical for the sales engineers. These trainings are available online. You can actually take the courses online, and you can actually take the test online and become certified as a Huawei certified sales professional or a Huawei certified sales engineer. So both of those two sets of courses are available online, as are the exams. If you're more interested in actually deploying the Huawei solution, so you're either a partner that's selling professional services or you're an end customer that's going to deploy something that you've purchased, we have more involved 5-day courses that you can take with our services group, and these courses dive into all the nitty-gritty details about how you deploy the solutions and exactly what the experience is from taking it out of the box to configuring it, setting it up, and deploying it fully into an environment. So if you're interested in either one of those two tracks, either more the how to sell and how to be a sales engineer for a VAR type training or the full-blown professional services training, go to our website, which is HuaweiEnterpriseUSA.com, and you'll be able to get the online training as a VAR, or you'll be able to get more information about services as well. So that's a great question. Another question has to do with, and this is going to be, I think, for Thomas, does Huawei have an MDM client available for BYOD in the WLAN environments?
Yeah, so specifically the mobile device management, or MDM client, is absolutely a part of what we offer, and that's part of the what we call the AnyOffice suite. So as a core component of mobile security, mobile device management can minimize the security risks of operations on mobile devices and prevents data leaks in the case of mobile device loss. So as a matter of fact, one of the key concerns of any CIO is, what if one of my employees actually goes out and physically loses a device out there? What do I do then? And I need to be able to deal with an issue like that. And as a matter of fact, part of that AnyOffice security suite can go ahead and either wipe or retrieve the information for that device, and then in essence decommission it, so there is no threat to the corporate security. The major subcomponents of the mobile device management products are asset and policy management, hardware control, jailbreak detection, remote locking that I just talked about, and remote erasing, data backup and recovery, one-click application configuration, enterprise application store, and self-help management portal. So it's very much an end-to-end MDM solution. Thank
Excellent. Yeah, that's a great question. Great answer as well. Appreciate that very much. The next question is actually coming out of the audience, and this is something that we actually demonstrated at our ICT summit that we had a couple months back. The question is, does Huawei have a tool to help with site survey for designing WLAN deployments and environments? And Thomas, I was wondering if you could just talk for a minute or two. I know you kind of touched on this a little bit, but if you could just elaborate a little bit on the tools that Huawei has that allows a customer or a VAR to figure out where they need to put their IPs, or their APs rather, and then also kind of what the coverage holes might be with an existing deployment.
Yeah, so absolutely. So this is part of our network design tools. As I mentioned, there's two ways to design one of these WLANs. Either hunt and peck and kind of figure out everything by yourself, or use some of our software-based tools to go out first and detect the current locations of current APs if you're actually doing a network extension, or and to go ahead and to strongly suggest where further APs should be placed. And we have both of these tools available through our engineering staff. They are available out to the reseller, and we have productized them, and we, as a matter of fact, did demonstrate that at our latest reseller summit, Nick. So very much available in usage, and if you'd like more information on that, certainly follow up with us or one of your local resellers or the sales team office located most closely to you.
Great. We just have time for a couple more questions, and I'm sorry because there literally are 20 or 30 different questions, so we won't be able to get to all of them. I will say that we will follow up with you individually for more detailed technical questions if we don't get to them now. But Osama, I think this one could be for you. We talked a lot about Huawei's foray into the outdoor wireless environments, and we talked about the ability to support kind of extreme environments. The question was, what temperature extremes do the Huawei outdoor access points handle?
I think Thomas expressed in his in his part of the presentation that outdoor can actually outdoor access points can operate in a harsh environment. I don't know if Thomas knows exactly what kind of temperature or the range of temperature that can be supported, but I believe it's already supported on the AP products.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, the intrusion prevention is level 6 and level 7 for solids and liquids. I will follow up specifically on the temperature number. It's escaping my memory right now, but I'll be glad to follow up with the question on that one, Nick.
What we want to know is, can you put a Huawei AP on the sun, and will this thing survive? Really, is what
exactly.
So,
and I think the answer will be you bet. Okay.
Okay, excellent. And then there was also a question about how to become a partner. If you go to that website that I mentioned, which is HuaweiEnterpriseUSA.com, you'll see a partner section on there. If you're already a partner, it actually gives you access to some of these online tools that we've been talking about, as well as partner pricing and things like that. If you're not already a partner, you can use that website to apply to become a partner, and then you'll go through the process. And we're very eager to grow our partner community, so it's a fairly simple process and a rapid process to get you approved and get you access to all the partner-specific information. So definitely go check out that website. It's also for end users as well, HuaweiEnterpriseUSA.com. Check it out. There's lots of information about all the products, in addition to, obviously, WLAN, as well as various case studies and vertical solutions for the region, education market, media and entertainment, and much more. So check out that website. Guys, unfortunately, I believe we are out of time, and we do want to be respectful of everyone's time. So if you didn't get your question answered, we'll definitely follow up with you. Please join us for another webinar in the near future. We're doing these about every other week, so we'll have another webinar shortly. I think the next one's going to be talking about one of our telepresence solutions, video conferencing, the Huawei TE30. So if you're interested in a very aggressively priced and high-end, high-quality video conferencing solution, you'll want to join us for that one, so be on the lookout for an invite. Thomas and Osama, I want to thank you guys very much for your time and the excellent presentation and information. And thanks again, everybody, for your time today. Look forward to your Starbucks gift card, and we'll talk to you again on a webinar very shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you.